Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 8 of Finding Your Purpose. And I'm very pleased to say that we have, as a special guest tonight, Johanna Callahan, who's going to tell us all about sleep, all about the restorative processes that go on within sleep, and the health benefits that result. So, if you currently have any challenges with sleep, then this is the perfect show for you to be listening to. And as usual, the comments are open for you to do as much for you to make personal comments during the recording, and Joanne will aim to answer all those questions, and those questions that we can't answer will be answered later. Is that okay with you, Joanne? At this
Absolutely.
point, I want to say really warm welcome. Lovely to have you on the show. I've listened to you talk on a number of other shows and thought I must have you on mine. So very warm welcome. And first of all, I always start off with the same question. The show's called Finding Your Purpose. And I like to ask my guests, what events transpired to reveal your purpose to you? Because I always explain to my viewers, to me, purpose is like a golden thread that hangs through all our lives, but it's only when we find it that thread, only when we find our purpose, that thread becomes clear, and all those experiences that have gone on in our life suddenly have new meaning, a new purpose. So with that very long preamble, Joanne, tell me about, how did you find your purpose?
Well, thank you, Stephen, for having me. And, I love talking all about sleep and, how it impacts your life and how all the benefits of sleep. Oh my God, there are so many that people just do not realize. And my whole journey, when you talk about purpose, it's really interesting, because people always ask me that all the time. Why sleep of all things? Like, there's the diet nutrition coach and the personal your exercise coach, what you call the personal trainer coaches, and all these different coaches and what have you. And sleep really has only become something of a new thing in the last number of years, And so my journey began, I suppose, all through my life. I've had many experiences of not having great sleep. And from the time when I was growing up in my family home, there was once upon a time 10 of us living in the house, a 3-bed house. And my father was an alcoholic. So all the turmoil and challenges around all of that, I got many sleepless nights. And then fast forward a few years, oh gosh, when I was a teenager, I was abused and became pregnant and had a baby. So I was a teenage mum. So many sleepless nights there as well. And then when I got married, my husband had sleep apnea, and I found that out by accident. This is before I even got into the whole sleep thing. He found himself in hospital, and he was doing a routine questionnaire from the doctors, and they said, "Do you sleep well?" They said to him, and he said, "Yeah, no problem." And I said, "Well, you might sleep well, but I'm not sleep." I was really annoyed. I was so furious because I could not sleep. The snores out of him and everything, So they sent him on this test, and lo and behold, he had sleep apnea, right? And that was when I got curious about all the sleep apnea, And then I lost a baby a few years later. My daughter died. Grief, sadness, more sleepless nights. So I've had a multitude of, and there's even more, right? But I've had a multitude of not having a good night of sleep. And when I bought my own house and I was living on my own, right? I moved from a house of 10 people in it, right? And I was on my own in that house, and I got great sleep. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I felt so much better. I went on to study holistic therapies, massage, Reiki, reflexology. I was very curious about the whole holistic health, and the benefits of that, and how we can look after ourselves and nurture ourselves through these methods, And then I got into sleep because my mentor at the time said to me, "Joanne, you got to write a book." And this seemed like a really weird thing to do, And I was like, me, an author? Like, it seemed like really way up there, to be an author. And I was like, there's no way I can be an author. So I realized all my massage clients that were coming to me, they were tired, they'd no energy. And I wrote a book on sleep. And through the process of writing about sleep, it uncovered so much more for me, so much more, how it relates to everything, all the different areas of our life, and even emotional health, mental health, spiritual health, our purpose, like you were talking about your purpose. Our spiritual health is very, very important. That's our meaning that we apply to life, how we view life. So it became my mission to help people to become aware of what sleep can provide for you physically, emotionally. There's a lot of mental health challenges at the moment. There's a lot of obesity, which we're going to get into, and type 2 diabetes. There's huge numbers there. So it's all connected. So it's my mission to help people to discover this, become aware of it, and then empower them what they can actually do. And they're just some simple little things. And it's not people's fault. It's the way the world is set up with the food industry and big pharma and all this. It's not people's fault, and there is a lot that we can do. And getting a good night's sleep is the start of a lot of this, because I believe everything is better with better sleep. So I hope that answered your question, Stephen.
It does. It more than answered my question. Thank you, Joanne. And, you know, this is remarkable. As somebody who had type 2 diabetes, well, still have, I guess, for 20 odd years now, sleep itself varied a lot during my treatment regime. So as I moved on different medications, when I was on insulin, but then most times I remember when my sleep was not so good, it was related to some kind of a stress response. So, you know, I remember particularly when I was taking insulin, I used to stress out a lot about, you know, have I taken enough? Have I not got in? You know, have I got, what happens if I take too much? You know, do I end up in the hospital, like happened to me 2 or 3 times? So all these stresses kind of build up and feeds into your sleep cycle, and the sleep gets worse and the anxiety gets more, and the sleep gets worse and the anxiety gets more, and you end up in this loop, which is bad, which is so bad for my existing condition, but really feels unstoppable. You know, it feels like, how do I break out of this loop?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell me about this kind of cycle. Is it right to explain it as kind of a cycle that feeds these bad sleep patterns and things like that?
Absolutely. You explained it great. And yeah, it's so true. And like when you said stress, look, we use that word quite an awful lot. And there's many different ways that we can be stressed, and there's different levels of stress, there's different areas of stress. We may relate it to physical stress, you know, physical stress, the body gets tired, but an awful lot of us are emotionally stressed as well, right? We're worried, we're concerned. You mentioned about anxiety. There's a lot of fears in the world, you know, and there's different, you know, fears can translate into so many different things. And then there's the sadness, grief, shame, we're not good enough, and all these things that are very disempowering, and it's a form of fear and then stress, because the bottom line is, Stephen, we have to feel safe in this world to turn off that stress, the fight or flight stress response. And the modern world that we're living in at the moment, it's always turned on, and our body is not practicing, it's not able to practice the flip between the fight or flight and the rest and digest, the calming state. And we're not practicing that. So when it comes to when we're going to sleep at nighttime, it's very hard for our body to switch over to the relaxing state. It's very, very hard, because even when we're going to bed at nighttime, people have anxiety, they have stressful thoughts. A lot of people, I just spoke to somebody yesterday, they can't, the minute they put their head on the pillow, all these thoughts come flooding into the head. What if, what if, what if? And they're worried, they're upset, they're concerned. And it's because we're so distracted during the daytime. We keep ourselves so busy and we're so distracted. And we're often in a state of avoidance and delay and denying, all this sort. We're procrastinating basically, and we're keeping ourselves busy. And there's a lot of people that say, "Oh yeah, I'm busy, I'm flat out," and they're like, it's like they're wearing it like a badge of honor. But I would say to people, be aware if you're saying that. Be aware if, you know, if that's going on in your life, because it's actually chaotic and it's stressful. And if we're in this stressful state for too long, our body can't switch, and our body doesn't feel safe. If we don't feel safe, we're not going to sleep well at nighttime. The cortisol, which is our stress response hormone, is heightened. And when you talk about a cycle, our hormones actually work in a cycle as well, including cortisol. So we do need cortisol. It's highest in the morning time. It's what gets us up out of bed in the morning. It's what makes us be very focused. So first thing in the morning is supposedly the best time to do any kind of concentration work or anything like that, with the brain. We have a lot of blood flow in the brain first thing in the morning. But cortisol is supposed to naturally decline at nighttime, but it doesn't. And then the other thing about cortisol when it comes to weight gain is cortisol needs fuel to run away from that lion or tiger. So it needs glucose. It uses glucose, and we have a problem with blood glucose, at the moment, and overweight, obesity. So so that's the vicious cycle, Stephen. You're right.
And I think that's really an important point that I'd like to. When I think about my own life, I find that in a way I need to protect that sleep period. So going into that sleep period for me, Joanne, I need a break point, a point where my mind can let go of what's gone on during the day and can enter that sleep phase. So I tend to, I like to meditate. And to, even if it's only for 2 minutes, but I generally I do it for about 20 minutes, but whatever time that is, it's about letting all those things just flow through my mind and let them all go, so that when it comes to my rest period, then I can go to a near normal sleep cycle. Is that kind of, that strategy works for me? I'm sure there are many other kind of strategies.
And we hear this all the time, like, meditate, yoga, a relaxing, quiet walk, maybe before bedtime. I love walking in the evening time. I don't wander too far now, but gentle movement or gentle exercise. It's really important not to over exercise right before you go to bed, because it increases adrenaline and increases the core temperature. So relaxing and meditation. But here's the thing, a lot of people will run a mile when you even say the word meditation. There's a lot of people, because people cannot be with themselves, right? This is why we procrastinate. This is why we make ourselves busy. I remember there was a time when I noticed whenever I had something really important to do, but I just didn't want to do it, and I kept putting it off and kept putting it off. I'll do it later. I'll do it tomorrow. And I kept cleaning the fridge or the bathroom. And these are horrible jobs that I don't like to do. But I found that when I start cleaning the fridge out, then I'd start to ask myself, okay, what am I avoiding? Because when I clean the fridge, I'm avoiding something. I'm making myself busy, right? And we're all guilty of this, right? It's so funny. So the first thing is to be aware when you're doing these things, but it's really important that we can slow down, because years ago, I love to go back to the caves when we lived in the caves, because we've evolved from this time where we were always outdoors, always grounded, always out in nature, loads of fresh air, right? And when we had a stress, it didn't last for very long. And this is how our bodies were built. We'd have a stress response, and it served as well, the cortisol spike, all that kind of adrenaline, all that kind of stuff. But then it went away, and we went back to the rest and digest, and and we didn't have all these thoughts, all these worries and concerns, right? But nowadays, so what's going on now? The world that we're living in is super fast. There's so much information out there. There's internet. There's so many demands. AI is just excelling so fast. And people are trying to keep up with it, but we can't keep up with the speed of how the internet and AI and all that is evolving, and it's making us very anxious because we don't know what's going to happen and all of this. And don't want to put fear into people or anything, but as human beings, we can't keep up with the speed of everything, and we're trying to. So it's really important that we do not try to keep up with everything, but it's really important that we stop, even if it's just for 30 seconds, and practicing that a lot during the day. It could be when you're driving your car and you're at the traffic lights and you practice breathe all the way down into your belly. Like it is so simple. And it's such a simple thing to do that we think that's not going to work, because we were looking for complicated solutions all the time as human beings. So we need to slow down.
And sometimes we need to change our patterns, because I remember, and many times, sometimes I slip into this right now. You think, oh, well, I watch another episode of this TV show or something, and it's a drama and it's getting you excited and it's getting you, getting the adrenaline pumping. And then, oh, it's bedtime now. And the body probably doesn't know what to do. It's still in that adrenaline mode of wanting to, I don't know, action mode or whatever you're watching on the TV. And I find the thing that actually helps me sleep, if I do have to watch a TV, is what's something funny, what's something that's, relaxing, that's not stressful, suspenseful, or something like that. Because otherwise, I just end up with a bad night's sleep. And the worst thing, and I'm sure you could have told me this one, but the worst thing for me is when I decide to have a drink. If I decide to have a drink, then I can fall asleep with a click of my fingers, but I'll be up again 2 hours later. Because sleep and drink and whatever, they just don't coexist.
And look, like you said a few things there, like you were talking about the TV and what have you, and it helps you to wind down. Well, like if you were to watch a comedy or something like that, because that's and it's really important, the content that we consume right before we go to bed, right? So it's really important that we don't watch horrors, thrillers, anything alarming. It's really important that we don't have those kind of conversations. It's really important that we don't read novels or books that are thriller based or whatever, because that's going into your subconscious, and that's the last thing that's entered into your subconscious, and it's fresh and it's there in the brain, like, to be processed when you sleep. So really mind the content that you're consuming right before bed in whatever form it is. The other thing is that came to my mind was Netflix. And the CEO of Netflix has quoted that sleep is its biggest competitor. Sleep is its biggest competitor, right? And so it's trying to keep people. That's why there's the autoplay. If you're watching a series, it just autoplays into the next season or a series or whatever it is. It auto plays into it, and then you're hooked. You're that's why you might binge watch 2-3 episodes, maybe God forbid 5 or 6 episodes, right? And it has us hooked. So we need to be able to control our decisions, like, and to be able to, our boundaries and what have you, not to be easy. And look, Netflix is set up this way for that reason, is they want us to stay watching, like, and it's the same with the phones. All this scrolling. Don't get me started about phones at nighttime, but we will mention that. But yeah, it's and then the alcohol that you mentioned, it's a diuretic. It may help you fall asleep at nighttime, but it stops your dreaming state. It interferes with that, but also fragments your sleep, and it gets you up going to the toilet as well. So there's many different things there from drinking alcohol. So many people use it as a crutch, and they're like, oh, I need to have a drink to help me sleep, and that's really just a crutch. So that's, we need to reprogram what we're telling ourselves, if we're using it as a crutch as well. But yeah, we need it to be out of the system before we go to sleep, to really have a true night's sleep.
Yeah. And, as evidence of that, I need to look at my son, Luke's 9. And, it's always a big struggle to get his iPad off him. I always like to have a break state where he has at least 15, 20 minutes of off time before he goes to bed. But but you see him on there, and he can't hear what you're saying.
They're zoned out.
Absolutely zoned out. And if the times that he's been watching that, even a movie or whatever on that, and then gone straight to bed, are the times when he has the most vivid dreams, because as you say, they pick up that last visual experience, and the brain extrapolates it and builds upon it. So it's something that I'm very aware of with him, and that's actually helped my own awareness.
I think it's very important to be aware of what the phones are doing on mobile devices. And it's people talk about, can I watch TV? And they think, like, when we talk about screens, so TV is a screen, but it's the proximity of how close it is to you. But with the mobile phones, and I worry about teenagers. I worry about teenagers in this lifetime that we're living, because it's very challenging. And for me as a parent, I didn't have mobile phones growing up, right? So it's a different experience. You know, I didn't have that experience as a child, so it's a little bit harder for the parents, right? But with the mobile devices, you got the blue light. The blue light stops melatonin. It blocks melatonin. Melatonin's our sleep hormone. And it has been shown in scientific studies that it blocks melatonin at nighttime. I see kids been given melatonin supplements. The one thing that I would say, don't take them melatonin supplements like they're sweets. Now, I'm not a doctor, by the way, or a psychologist or anything like that. I am a certified health coach and a certified sleep science coach. So I'll speak from that point of view. But with the, and always consult your doctor. Like if anyone's taking melatonin supplements, or medication or whatever. I know in some countries you can get it as over the counter, but it's a hormone. Like, so don't mess with it. Don't be taking it like it's sweets. So always, I would recommend always, you know, go to your doctor if you're doing melatonin, anything to do with melatonin supplements. But yeah, it blocks the melatonin, but also it activates the brain. It activates dopamine, which is an excitatory neuron, and dopamine is what has us be addicted. That's why we're scrolling. We're not looking for anything in particular. We just keep scrolling. We just keep scrolling, and like, oh, 5 minutes, I'll just do this for 5 minutes, and half an hour later, you're still plugged into it. And look, the devices and the software platforms, they've all designed it this way. They've designed it, so it's not our fault, but we need to become aware of what's going on. And when we understand, it's only when we understand these things that we have more control over it. So that's all I'll say on mobile phones.
Yeah, no, you're right. I can see exactly what you're saying, because it needs to be raised to our conscious awareness, because it becomes habitual. It's like this thing is attached to our. I've seen some of these sci-fi things where people have a phone embedded in their hand.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like that right now. I see that with well, my wife, God bless her if she's listening to this, but still this eternal scroll. My goodness, it can be so, I don't know if I want to say absorbing or distracting, but it's an eternal presence, and it's you know,
we're addicted. Like we are addicted to our mobile phone.
And there is some comfort in that, because it's a safe space. It's an environment, you know, that we can control. Well, we think we can control because it's in our hand. But you know, what's it stopping us doing while we're doing this? You know, oh, I'm very busy, I'm sorry. You know, and people are scrolling away on their phone. How busy are you?
Yeah, that's making ourselves busy. A lot of people sleep with their phone. There's statistics there to show, you know, the majority of people wake up, and within the first hour, what they do is they look at their phone before they say good morning to their spouse or significant other. They're reaching for their phone, right? This is how dependent that we are on them. If we leave the house in the morning, we will actually turn our car around and come back to the house to get our phone. It's like an extension of our arm, and we're so reliant and so dependent on them. So it's just something to be aware, you know, and even people that sleep with their phones. And then there's the whole Wi-Fi conversation as well. And, you know, there's so many signals that come off your phone, GPS and the radio signals and all. There's so many, and we can even use the phones as remote controls now for our TV. So there's so many signals. So like for our brain health, even like when you're on a telephone conversation, if you have the phone up to your ear for 10 minutes, you'll feel the heat from the phone. And MRI scans have shown the radiation in the, and I worry about the kids, because the kids are putting the phone up to the head and their skull is more permeable than adults' skulls. We see a lot more diseases and all this brain stuff, loads of stuff going on at the moment. The numbers are increasing, and it's a multitude of all these things. But the mobile phones are very big. If you actually look in the hand manual of mobile phones, it will say do not put within 1 inch of your head. Because mobile phone, like years ago when I was growing up, we had the telephone that was plugged into the wall, and you'd, you know, with the wire on it, and we'd put it up to our head, you know, the sound piece on the speaker, you know. Whereas we're still doing it with the smartphones, but we haven't evolved. Like we put your phone on speaker or use headphones. Don't ever put your phone up to your head. Anyway,
even if you do that, Joanne, I remember that was how the old receiver used to work. So you used to have You used to have a speaker here that you speak into, and
Yeah.
this was for your ear up here, and you'd hold it like that. But of course, you're quite right, with smartphone technology nowadays, having that on your ear like we used to is just so potentially bad for us. But as I say, it's almost embedded in our culture, because that was how a phone worked.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We haven't changed. We're still like adapting that way that we use the phone. So so it's really, and it contributes to us not sleeping well at nighttime, because it's getting the brain excited, and the brain waves need to slow down, because we have the beta, the alpha, theta, delta. So we've all the different brain waves, and they all change they all change as we progress through the cycles during the nighttime. And each brain wave state represents, like, if you look at it on the, and you're all hooked up and what have you in the hospital, and it will show you if you're in dream state, if you're in deep sleep, if you're in light sleep. So you can see all this through the brain waves. So when we go to bed and we have those busy thoughts that you were talking about earlier on, we're in the beta brainwave, we're in thinking mode, and we need the prefrontal cortex for us to wind down and for the brainwaves to slow down. And if you want to reprogram any bad habits that we have, a lot of people, they want to be a better version of themselves. They want to eat more healthy. They want to lose weight. So we can actually program. You've heard of affirmations and all of that, and positive thinking. The positive thinking is really a quick fix, in my opinion. But at nighttime, two of the best times actually to reprogram the brain to get it into the subconscious is right as we're going to sleep at nighttime, and also first thing in the morning, because that's when the brain waves slow down. You're more suggestible too. So if you want to lose weight, if you want to change your lifestyle, how you're living, if you want to be a happier person, look more at the positive things in life, whatever it is. Two of the best times is right before you go to bed and first thing in the morning, because we've an awful lot of bad habits.
And I think that skill thing is a really important subject to spend a few minutes on, because the studies I've read show that effectively, if you're wanting to learn a new skill and get the plasticity that is required in order to absorb that skill, sleep is absolutely essential. Because that's when that skill becomes embedded.
And even what I have found when it comes to learning new skills, like I played the piano, not too much now, but even as a speaker, right? And I use sleep and dream, and there's this thing called lucid dream, and I won't go into it in depth here, but as we dream, we can do this thing called mental rehearsal, and we can visualize ourselves. And visualization, imagery, is a really important part of us succeeding in life. Napoleon Hill talked about the ability to, it's this magnificent thing of creation, to be able to visualize yourself. And if you can visualize yourself doing something or being successful at something, then it is possible that you can do it. And we can do this at nighttime. And what I used to do is mental rehearsal. I used to see myself coming out on the stage, and I was full of energy, and the audience picked up on my energy, and and it was a great conversation. I'd be saying things, whatever. I do a whole mental rehearsal. Same when I was playing the piano. And it has been shown in studies, even athletes, even people who want to lose weight, right? Anything that you want to change on your habits, if you see yourself doing it, that's getting programmed and wired into your brain, even though you're not actually doing it, but you're in the imagination, and your body doesn't know the difference between what's real and perceived. So your body is having the chemical reactions in response to what you're thinking and what you're visualizing, and we can do this in the dream state. It's just incredible.
It is. Listen, there's at least another show on this, so I'd like to do another show with you if you'd come back.
Absolutely. We have to talk more about diabetes and the weight.
Well, we will. I want to make it a lot more specific on diabetes, perhaps next time, on the strategies we use. But I mean, even in this short session we've had now, Joanne, you mentioned lots of strategies and things. And if people want to follow up on this, where would be the best place to find your information and to do perhaps a little bit of a deeper dive?
Yeah, absolutely. If people literally just Google my name, Johann Callahan, Johann. So if you just Google Johann Callahan, you'll find all sorts of videos. You'll find my website, johancallahan.com. Yeah, that's my website. Yeah. People can go there as well. And you can book a 15-minute free sleep strategy call on that page there as well. They can do that. Absolutely. I'd love to speak to people. I'd love to help people sleep better. Absolutely.
Good. Well, I'd encourage people to reach out, and I'm sure a link to your book or whatever is on the website.
Yeah.
So that would be the best place for people to reach out to for that. And Joanne, again, once again, thank you very much. That was I enjoyed that session so much. I hope the audience did as well. And let's have you back in, the next couple of months or something, and we can continue this, with diabetes in mind. So thank you for now, and have a wonderful weekend that's coming up soon. And yes, thank you. See you soon.
Have a great day.
Take
Thanks
care.
so much, Stephen.